Hello, good morning. My name is Vivian Dowdy, and I am excited to introduce Amy Bauer Kulas, who will be leading our session today, Fostering a Supportive Learning Environment, Maximizing Core Instruction and JiJi Culture. Amy is a dedicated educator with 13 years of experience specializing in math, reading, and technology instruction. Passionate about fostering student success, Amy employs innovative teaching strategies and data-driven decision-making to support academic growth. She is committed to continuous professional development, staying current with best practices to enhance not only her own teaching and leadership skills, but her colleagues as well. Amy has a proven track record of building meaningful connections with students and colleagues, creating a positive and collaborative learning environment. Outside the classroom, she enjoys exploring new technologies and sharing knowledge to inspire others in the field of education. Amy teaches at Lancaster School in Milwaukee, which is sponsored by Verizon Innovative Learning Schools. Because of this donor support, we have been able to provide STMath and help transform math learning for more than 300,000 students across the country. And with that, I am now passing the mic to Amy.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm very glad that you chose to join in our session or my session today. If you could go ahead and drop in the chat and let me know where you're visiting for joining from, just so I can kind of see the range of our audience. And we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, there they come. Perfect. So as mentioned, we are going to take a look at fostering just that learning environment and maximizing core instruction. Hopefully some of the ideas that I share will be new ideas that you can take back to your school community, or just that we're doing the same thing so that you may feel that place where you're in the right spot. So hopefully there'll be some takeaways, if not just that shared understanding that we're all doing what we need to be doing. As far as the topics we're going to cover, we're going to start with an idea of JiJi to the rescue, and then some ideas around leveled math interventions, as well as ways that we have built our JiJi culture. And then depending on the time we have at the end, I've budgeted a little bit for a shared mini mastermind. So to get us started, when are those moments in your classroom where it's just not going the way you had planned, or something comes up? So at Lancaster, that's a lot of the times where STMath and the idea of JiJi just is a solution. So I've listed out a few of the ones that we have here, including, shoot, you didn't make it to the copier on time, or there was a line. You might have a lesson that you planned, it's just not hitting right. Somebody is sick and you need to cover in that IEP, or if you are rotating classrooms and your students are having a really hard time coming in and settling and getting transitioned. So that's one. This is a list of the ways that we've used JiJi STMath as a solution outside of the number of minutes that we just need to cover through our district's suggested times. So when specifically last year, we had a teacher who would lose 10 to 15 minutes at the start of every single math class because he just had students that wouldn't come in, settle, get started. So we talked about the idea of set a timer. Students know that they need to pull out their devices and get on STMath for that timer. And then he could touch base with students that needed a little bit more redirection, maybe carried over some issues from the class before, handing out supplies, manipulatives, whatever it needed. But it was just that 10 minutes that wasn't lost learning because students were engaged doing something else. All of our students have access to STMath in our kindergarten through 8th grade building, and it's a big buy-in factor for our staff, knowing that they don't have to reteach their students a new program. They already know that the year before they were building those skills as well. I did interview a few of my staff members and asked them kind of what were their thoughts on ST-Math in general. And I hope that by sharing some of their experiences, you'll envision some of your coworkers or maybe even yourself. So I'm going to start with Miss Buck. She is an 8th grade teacher in our building. She works really hard to build a culture for learning in her classroom. And she's scheduled specific time throughout the week for her ST-Math. She really pushes them to stay engaged, but her students are the big flip-floppers in their love for ST-Math. Sometimes they're all about it, and other times they really get frustrated with the lack of instruction or just kind of get stuck. But she really pushes them through that frustration to increase their math talk abilities, and then also to seek out other individuals in the building where they may be able to work through that problem solving process with somebody else. Now, Mr. Kelsey, he's one of our paraprofessionals, or at your school, it might be like a teacher's aide, but one of those non-teacher staff members. And he's called on a lot of the times to be a substitute teacher. So if somebody's running late in the morning or we need class coverage, a lot of times it falls on Mr. Kelsey. And there isn't always a stack of subplans available to him, and there isn't always Google Classroom assignments. So a lot of times he's just left to figure it out. And ST-Math is his #1 go-to for those kind of moments in the morning where he needs to figure something out, whether it's taking attendance, finding those subplans, calling the office, getting things printed. He automatically finds that class, gets them on ST-Math, and has at least 45 minutes where students are engaged and working on something productively, where he can kind of get everything else settled. If that sounds like something that happens in your building, go ahead and drop me like a me too or something in the chat to let me know that we all have those moments where class coverage just kind of needs to be a solution. And the last teacher I've highlighted there is Miss Tao. Now, she is a 1st grade teacher in our building, and her class is the class that is always winning our online program competitions, whether it's with ST-Math, minute or puzzles or minutes or iReady or anything else that we're asking our students to do. Miss Tao gets her class online. But the sneaky thing is her students are not on devices all day long. She finds moments during the day where maybe 10 students are on ST-Math here, and she's able to pull a small group, and then these other students are working independently on a different task. So she's able to manage the more unsettled moments of her day, or where she needs to pull a teacher-led small group, and uses ST-Math to really fill that need. She also is great at monitoring her student progress and celebrating her students frequently, which I think comes into the play where she's always the top class whenever it comes to those competitions. She's in the data, and that matters. And then I did ask for some student voices. As I mentioned in Miss Buck's class, they have kind of that flip-flop. So I wanted to just kind of bring voice to their preferences. So one of our 8th graders said, something I like about ST-Math is that it gives you challenging problems. So they were able to identify that it's different from their normal day-to-day math class. Another one said, I like it that it teaches me math work, and I get to learn new math skills, but sometimes it's frustrating that it doesn't tell me how to do it. So again, just that student voice and their own personal path through the problem solving. And the last one there felt the most honest. One thing I don't like about ST-Math is when you start a new puzzle, it gives you no example or try to help you. But then the student said, I kind of like that part too, and wanted to kind of go back to the beginning and change their answer. So even though it's initially frustrating, they are finding ways to connect with ST-Math and the Penguin school-wide. The next topic that I want to get us into thanks, Ryan. I see your comment in the chat. Is how we use ST-Math as a solution for an online leveled intervention. So at Lancaster, we have ST-Math as part of our Tier 1 compliance or requirements, where students are using STMath with the grade level path or prescribed path. And then we can also go in and use the assignments portion and our data from our district assessments and our classroom assessments to set a more leveled intervention style path that's providing feedback to students. Sometimes when we use things like Nearpod or any of the other digital platforms that you might be using, it still requires that teacher to check in and find moments where it's a small group. But STMath with the penguin and the instant feedback and everything like that, it's something that teachers can find the required level, assign it to students, and then check the dashboard without needing to sit next to the student each step of the way. So this is one of the things that we've used for one of our solutions. And if you're interested, if you haven't already thought of that as a way to use STMath in your building, I've listed some of the steps that we take. And we use Renaissance and Star Math for our district benchmark assessments. And I know many of you across the country may use something else. So Chris is going to go ahead and drop a resource in the chat, depending, I think this is the page. Depending on what assessment you use, it may already be linked or a way to link to the assignments. And the biggest thing there is have conversations with your STMath person, with your contact, because they're the best one that's going to help you figure out saving time if it's already an option. And then there's an option to snooze the journey. So you can quiet or snooze the grade level path and only allow their assignments first. We don't snooze anything because we leave that choice up to the teacher and student during any given time throughout the day. And we find that students have more buy-in, less shutdown moments, because if they're stuck somewhere, they have two different options. And that just keeps the usage a little bit higher and the purpose with intention. So there's a couple things on the slide here. Again, Chris dropped them in the chat. And when I get to the end of the slide deck, there's resources linked as well. But thinking about how to take your existing data, how to take a tool like STMath, right? To take STMath and create a useful option in your classroom that you may not already be using. Oops. Now, this is probably my most exciting, my favorite part is building the JiJi culture, building that STMath culture in your building. And depending if you're a middle school only, a kindergarten through 8th grade like we are, we have students that are 4 years old to 14 in our building. And this is one of the common denominators, one of those common factors that all students are able to relate to. So if we have a whole school assembly, we can talk about STMath because everybody has buy-in, and we can talk about a competition school-wide with incentives or whatever there might be because it relates to everybody. We have teachers that can support covering other classrooms because they have that little 45-minute savior of time that they know that there's not something they need to plan for. We have built the idea around students talking to each other about STMath, around our students talking to different staff members around STMath, and our staff talking to each other. So again, we don't need to differentiate our PD too much when we have a topic like this, because everybody's able to log in, check their dashboard, and just kind of discuss best practices. I mentioned this to somebody that our art teacher even is comfortable working with STMath. And I didn't think that was anything crazy, but they were like, you need to mention about your art teacher. And so just the accessibility of talking it up, spreading it across your building. Everybody's able to use it. Our art teacher works with our middle school students, and they have their one-to-one Chromebooks that they can move classrooms with. And so sometimes there's days where kids are just not interested in that art activity, but she's like, okay, if you brought your Chromebook, you can be on ST-Math if you're not choosing to participate. So it's minimizing those off-task moments with a tool that's still benefiting the intention of what we're doing. She even tells me, she's like, it's just puzzles. It's, like she's not intimidated by it. So I wanted to highlight her a little bit. Another way that we build our JiJi culture is by using what is already available to you. We're not trying to recreate the wheel. We are not trying to create extra work for ourselves in any posters or printed items. We always reference or try to reference the printable options, the challenge toolkits, anything that's already linked on their website. So that way it looks uniform throughout the building, but we're also saving time. We don't need to log into Canva or Adobe and create something and try to find the right graphic or copy it off of Google. I really encourage you to check out the tools that are available if you haven't already been to these areas on the website. Again, I have a resource page linked at the end of my slide deck, and it's also linked here. I believe all of these are accessible to you in the WUVA. Is that how I say it? In the portal that we're using to access the conference. So use what's there. There's certificates, there's challenges. We had 2 students that were rewarded for the January challenge. One of them was like one of the top puzzlers, and another one was randomly selected for completing the challenge. So there's competitions you can create in your school, but there's also ways that you can get involved with what's already happening on a larger scale. I talked to our school support teacher, who's now a 5th grade teacher, and she told me how hard she'd been trying to get the JiJi visit. So the mascot visit. And I was like, I talked to someone and, we figured it out, and it's on its way. And she just couldn't believe it. So one of the ways that we've been successful, in my opinion, is through our contact with people like Chris and Jamie, and asking for things. Hey, do you got any stickers? You got any postcards? Could we get a JiJi visit? I know there's the inflatable. We had that out 2 years ago, the big inflatable JiJi penguin, and then the mascot as well. So these are some pictures from our visit with the actual penguin, with the actual JiJi, and this is all of staff members photoed or captured here, principal included. Everybody was excited. JiJi became part of somebody's in K4 their birthday party celebration, because they just so happened to have the birthday party on the day we had the costume. And I had an 8th grader in the hallway that was just one of those kind of over it kind of kids, too cool for school. And like her face just lit up when JiJi walked down the hallway and embraced and a hug, it was really cool. So the ST-Math, the usage that we had following our visit, I think was our highest all school year. So if you ask, there's usually things that can support what you're trying to create in your building. Doesn't hurt to ask. The worst they can say is no, or maybe in a few months kind of an answer. So I've always felt super supported by just those requests. And I have everybody displayed here: our school safety, special education teacher, principal, a couple classroom teachers, the teacher's aides. So everyone was like, I want a picture. I want a picture. Wait, I need a picture too. So it was pretty cool. Thank you, David. So I want to mention, as part of our JiJi culture, we've also had some problems. Even though for the first 20 minutes of talking to you all, it sounds great, like everything is perfect, and we are doing it all the way it's supposed to be doing, we've had trouble, we've had struggles. And I hope that some of these are ways that could relate to your ST-Math journey if you're stuck on something. So some of the things that we've had come up are just when students get stuck and frustrated. And we really encourage our teachers and our students to revisit that problem-solving process, which again looked like this here. And then those other reminders that include, have you tried it on pencil and paper? Have you gone back to the puzzle before to see if there's any transferable skills that would help you moving forward? Did you talk to a neighbor? Don't ask them for the answer, but maybe there's something that they noticed that you missed in one of the incorrect options you've chosen. And then we do allow teachers to go in and set unlimited JiJis when absolutely necessary, when we've tried the problem solving process, when students have tried a number of times. Each classroom's a little bit different with the amount of attempts that they set those JiJis for. It's not our first option. It's not just a solution. It's let's go through as many times as we can. Another one of our issues is just that student motivation struggles. We've tried partner days. So let's say, for example, my partner and I both have our own ST-Math open on our own screens. And we're going to take turns ping-ponging back and forth, having math talk conversations about each other's math, ST-Math puzzles. So we don't have to be on the same level, but we're going to put one of the computers to the side. And then the two of us are going to talk through my partner's puzzles. And then we're going to switch back and forth, really encouraging the math language, math vocabulary, problem solving. And it is quite motivating for students to be like, oh, I got it now. Okay. And then they're a little bit more motivated to go back to that independent work. We've also had issues where teachers either didn't know they could check the dashboard or how to go in and check the dashboard, or if they knew about it, they just weren't using it. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. So with our professional development around ST-Math, we really are encouraging what's the usage, who's stuck on problems, how far are students on their journey. And we're by no means where our district would like us to be as far as our progress, but we are making progress each year in our ST-Math growth, where we're better now than we were last year. So still goals of more completed puzzles and journeys. However, it's been a process. We now require or recommend our teachers to check in that dashboard twice per month, but the ST-Math recommendation is twice per week. So again, we still have areas to grow and move forward with where we're at, but we feel pretty good about what we've accomplished and established so far. So I'm glad that I was able to save some time here in our session for a mastermind. If you've been a part of something like this before, it opens up our session that we're all professionals joining into the conversation and we all bring value to the conversation. And so what I want you to think about as we jump into this mini version of a mastermind is your ST-Math journey at your school. Think about your teacher usage, your students usage and mindset towards it, the teacher mindset. Where are things, how are things going for you? I want you to think about that for a little bit. And before we have someone jump right in, if you have a buzzing question, I want you to think about what question you could ask this wealth of knowledge in front of us, right? We have Chris, we have Vivian, we have myself. We're all here supporting each other, growing together, learning better ways to do things. And I want you to think about a question that you could ask the group. And if you don't have a question and you have something similar, that is a celebration at your school or something that you do that's just a little bit different than maybe somebody else might do. I want you to think about those things as well. So either questions that you could ask out to the group or your own celebrations or takeaway ideas that you would love the opportunity to share with someone else. And what I want us to do first is a waterfall in the chat. So let's go with the chat and then we're gonna come out onto off mute. So think about your question or your idea and go ahead and type it in our chat. And we're gonna give that a few minutes. And then once we see those start coming in, I'm gonna ask if there's anybody that would like to bring theirs out loud to the group and rely on this. I didn't even see how many, 46 people that have joined our session this morning for shared benefit. I love it. Thank you for those of you that have already jumped in the chat. I know we can grab a few more ideas and I'm sure you're typing. So we've had maybe 6 or 7 ideas already jump in the chat. Thank you for starting that conversation there. Is there anybody that would like to come off mute and give us a little bit more of the backstory of what they put in the chat or take advantage of the participants dropping ideas back to you? We could either do a hand raise or you can just jump on in with your microphone and tell us who you are and what's going on.
Hi, my name is Mary. I work in an elementary school building, K to 4. We celebrate the children who have, as a class, reached 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, so on, of their journey. 4th grade, however, is busy with IXL programs, the iReady, and the teachers won't don't promote ST-Math. So I'm wondering if there's any way that, any other suggestions to get them involved.
I certainly have some ideas, but I'm not the only voice. So for everybody else listening to Mary, she has 4th grade teacher buy-in is a struggle to get on ST-Math and budget that time during the week. If you have ideas back to Mary, can we drop some in the chat? And anybody else want to come off mute and talk to Mary some of their ideas?
Mary, I'm just wondering, my name is Becky Berg, and I was just wondering if maybe helping the teacher see how, let's say these 4th grade students are headed into equivalent fractions and helping them assign that specific block a few days before she even gets to that content, to really see how empowering that is to have those visuals work alongside your regular curriculum. And then kids will say, oh, we're doing this in ST-Math. And it just helps with both your core and with being successful with those ST puzzles and making the connection.
Thank you.
Can we get 2 more ideas for Mary?
I'll say Mary's, my name's Mary too. Um, her experience ties in very well with me because I am in a district that really pushes iReady. So my time that I can dedicate to STMath is limited. And so it makes me wonder, and as Mary's pondering, I think along the same lines, can we use it in a remedial way? Can we use it to promote differentiation? Because some of my students really aren't ready for iReady and could use some scaffolding before they get there. And so if somebody has experience and effective ways to do that, that might tie in with Mary's concerns about engaging teachers of older kids who might have more on their plate.
Thanks.
So I think this might be a great time for me to pop in. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Hara. I'm program manager with STMath and Fort Vills. And I've seen a couple of the comments here and wanted to share. First and foremost, I think someone mentioned it, but some of our usage challenges and contests would be a really fantastic way about getting that buy-in engagement from grade levels or teachers or students that may not already have that just baseline enthusiasm yet. And then the other big thing that I'm seeing are puzzle talks. And if you're unfamiliar, these are ready to roll resources, or really in some respects, mini lessons that could certainly be utilized to foster that discourse. And they're ready to go. They're almost pre-packaged such that once you do move through the sequence of the lesson, it's very easy to then draw connections for you with your students to the core content that you may be teaching, and really maximize that time given the constraints that you have going on in your building. So I hope those are some of the helpful ways to go about it. And I'll throw plenty more resources here into the chat, but thought those two would be particularly helpful in these case scenarios.
I had a slight disruption when when I was off camera or off mic. The only other thing I would add, Mary, is do you have the option to go slightly around your teachers where you could challenge directly to your students in like an after school homework style challenge? Where do your students have devices outside of school or computers at home or ways to access in a more of self-independent study? So it could be something that you're posting like a 4th grade challenge only to them, or even like a March Madness style challenge where you're not asking the teachers to jump in and grab that time during the school day, but maybe it might be a way that you could directly market it or try to reach out to those students individually as a parent flyer, like, hey, your students could practice this at home. I don't know what your Chromebook or technology situation is for your school, but that was one of the ideas that popped into my head, was make it a student directed challenge where it's something outside of school.
Okay, we do have one-to-one devices, so yes, I can do that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm very thankful, Mary, for you feeling comfortable to jump in as our first mastermind participant there. We have about 10 minutes, so that would be the opportunity for at least one more person to jump in with what they put in the chat. I do want to celebrate that people are commenting back to others in the chat, so it's exactly why I wanted to start with the chat first, in case we couldn't get to everybody, or in case there were limits to being able to come off mute. So I would love if somebody else wants to jump in with their situation, celebration, or question. And if we don't have anybody come off mute, I'm just reading back through the chat to see if there's something we could open the discussion about.
I'll share something. I was typing it, but that's okay. I'm Arlene from Virginia, and we're using it at our school. But at the beginning of the year with 7th and 8th grade students, we were encouraging them to take the diagnostic, which in the little island, when you go in there, the diagnostic, we had to go down to the My Journey button, which was a second little icon on the right. And once they got the auto assignments, then the teachers would say, go into your journey now, because they had to go to My Journey to take the diagnostic. But now My Journey is their grade level and not the puzzles that were assigned based on their diagnostic. So we've had a lot of confusion, and with 80% of students learning English, that's been very confusing for them. And we've had to put up pictures of which one to go into. So more an observation that I've made, that the teacher would be like, well, you're not doing the ones you're supposed to be doing. And one was My Journey, the other's auto assignment. So I don't know if there's another way to help students realize where they're supposed to be. And I know it's also teacher checking the dashboard, but it's also hard to tell where they might be, which area they're working in.
Thank you for jumping in. I loved what you said about creating a visual first. I wonder if there's a way that you could work with your teachers to create maybe like a slide deck or a PowerPoint that could be displayed when students are working on STMath, for just those options of how to click in. Other than that, on the portal side, I'd have to defer to one of the STMath people.
Well, that's what I did. I made slideshows to do the
Oh, perfect.
have to do that, but something we have to put up every time, and just the wording of it got confusing. And so teachers quit assigning anything because that just added to the student confusion.
I can chip in here with another resource so that it sounds like you made your own slides, but if for those of you that are looking for something that's already ready to go, there is an STMath help article that I've just put into the chat here that distinguishes the journey from those auto assignments and that pretest for middle school grade levels versus those assignments directly. And I'm seeing also, Becky, you've asked, is the diagnostic available for students K through 8 or just 6 through 8? There is an internal diagnostic. It's a pretest, and then students do receive auto assignments after taking that. But if you are someone that utilizes a national data or assessment resource, you can also get in touch with your STMath representative and see if it's an option to utilize what we call the assessment support tool. So something that Amy mentioned previously, but districts do have the ability to integrate that. So I'll leave that in the chat here as well. But I can absolutely understand the need to have and support students as they navigate between the different content and make sure it is what you are intending for them to see.
I want to highlight one of the other comments I saw in the chat. So that was around your district emphasizing a different app over STMath. I know we talked about that a little bit with Mary, and the other Mary jumped in as well. That conversation got a little longer in the chat, so I'm glad that we see kind of, oh yeah, the me too, or this is what we've tried. Would anybody else like to jump in on the conversation around ways that you sneak in, kind of like I said, like those sneaky ways that we've used STMath to solve some other problems? So is there anybody else that'd like to share of how you've encouraged your teachers to jump on an STMath either incentive or even like 10 minutes a day? Are there any voices that would like to speak on that?
I think it's just really, I work for STMath, but I also was a teacher who used STMath with other programs, especially during COVID times. And I think it's just really important to understand the difference in what both programs can bring. There's no, you should use this one or you should use this one. You can use them together. And I think like thinking about IXL, a lot of teachers like the ability to assign those standards. So you can assign standards in STMath too, but thinking of, STMath is teaching it conceptually. And if our students are getting, that direct instruction, and if they're still struggling, then those videos that are going to pop up, they may not be the best way for students to be learning because they're still struggling with that teaching strategy. So when students are learning it conceptually and seeing it visually, that's a new teaching strategy that might be more effective for that student who's struggling. So just kind of understanding the difference in the programs and how they can both benefit your students, and then trying to navigate that, alternating days, having these 2 days be STMath days, these days be IXL or iReady days. And then just the benefit of being able to keep our kids on grade level with STMath when they're doing iReady or other things that can sometimes back them down. So just the importance of knowing that our students are still going to be seeing those grade level standards that we know are important for them as well.
I know I mentioned it when I was talking about that partner activity, but I think that might be a way that you could encourage your teachers to use STMath, because it is different, right? It's creating those different opportunities for our students, but maybe that partner activity and encouraging math talk around the puzzles might be another way to get buy-in from your teachers that aren't seeing it as mandatory, but they could see it as so beneficial, fitting that need in a different way. We have a few minutes. Is there anybody else with a burning question that they'd like to come to the group with or throw in the chat? Otherwise, celebrations too. I love to hear how things are going at other schools. It makes me feel so much more relatable from my situation to others. So any celebrations, great things, things that you're just really proud of how it's going at your school. We'd love to hear that as well. I see Cindy put in the chat, I'll go into teachers' rooms and model a puzzle talk so that they can see just how user-friendly it is. Takes away that intimidation, right? Once it's done that a couple of times, that kid gets excited and leads the teacher to start it too. So thank you for sharing. If you've not done a mastermind before, I hope this is something that was a positive experience for you. You may not have been able to join in with your question, but still learn from just the interactions of welcoming everybody to have a voice. So something that I love to include in my PD with my teachers and when I have opportunities like this. And to recap where we've been in our session this morning, JiJi to the rescue. Again, think about those out of the box ways that a tool that all of your students have access to can solve day-to-day problems for your teachers. Maybe you can start winning with your STMath usage in those non-conventional ways. Using STMath and as a way to create leveled interventions for your students, please reach out. I strongly encourage reaching out to your STMath contacts. They're so helpful. I can't say it enough. Ask for ways that you can build or continue to build your JiJi culture, whether it's through the resources that are already available to you, you don't need to create, or asking for stickers or the costume or the inflatable. And then we did end there with that mastermind. And I'm so thankful for the participation because it makes the job as a presenter or facilitator so much more enjoyable to hear voices besides my own. The resources were linked here at the end. Chris did a phenomenal job of dropping those in the chat for you all. So if you missed any of those, they are here as well. And thank you for watching. I'm going to hand it back over to Vivian.
Thank you so much, Amy. You're amazing. Thanks everyone for your participation. I've dropped a little note into the chat for all of you. Looking forward to seeing you at our next session.